I want to have a conversation about how odd and bizarre reality is. The physical world and consciousness. We don't think about it much, but we don't understand it, and it's very important. Before we get into the conversation, we got to backtrack and have an understanding of geometry and the sphere in particular. The sphere in 3D and the circle, its 2D representation, is a very important shape. No matter what rabbit hole I go down, it seems to always come back to this shape. It's a basic in mathematics and how we do degrees and angles and plot points in space. In sacred geometry, it's the feminine aspect as opposed to the cube, the masculine aspect. In the supreme mathematics, it's the cipher, wholeness, completion. It's a natural shape. We see it from the macro to the micro. We see it from the largest structure, the sun, planets, moons, orbits, all the way down to how we see the smallest structures, like the atom and its circular patterns. We see it in seeds, budding flowers, fruits, vegetables, wood, rings in trees, ripples in water. There are a lot of examples in nature of spheres and circles. And now I want to talk about why this shape is abundant. And the simple answer is because it's the most efficient, easy shape to come about. And here's why. The sphere gives you the most inner space to hold or enclose something inside of it, with the least amount of outer space, outer perimeter or circumference. And another reason is it also takes the least amount of information to make a sphere. It has no sides, no corners, no angles, no lines. It's a simple shape that's part of its perfection. Let's look at blowing bubbles. As you push air energy at the soapy film, it should break and fly apart. But the soapy film doesn't. This is because it has an inherent quality inside of it, built into it, the film, that is. It's called surface tension. Surface tension, by definition, is the cohesiveness of molecules to work together. Essentially, the attraction between the molecules in the soapy film to stay together. I believe surface tension is a way of perceiving gravity. And we'll go back to that later. But as you push air energy against the soapy film, the surface tension is pushing back and the sphere or bubble forms. And as I said, this shape forms as opposed to a cube or a triangle or any other shape. Because, one, you get the most interior space, the most space to hold, enclose, or hold something inside of it with the least amount of perimeter and circumference. And also, it takes the least amount of information. No angles, no sides, and no corners, and no points. And because it's such a basic shape, it's more readily available to come about in nature. Now that we have an understanding of the circle and sphere, I want to talk about 5 shapes that have a certain relationship with the sphere. They're called the platonic solids. In order to be a platonic solid, you have to fit certain criteria. There's only 5 shapes that fit these criteria. You need certain qualities, and these are the qualities you need to be a platonic solid. First of all, you have to be what they call a closed polygon, meaning a closed, sealed figure. It cannot be like a cup with an open side. It has to be sealed and able to hold things within it. Every face has to have the same shape in every angle, and every corner has to be the same. The length of every line has to be the same. And like I said, there's only 5 figures that fit this criteria: the tetrahedron, the hexahedron, the octahedron, the dodecahedron, and the icosahedron. These shapes share another thing in common. If you put them all inside a sphere, every point of the shape would touch the sphere perfectly, like a perfect fit inside of it. The only other shape that will fit inside, these shapes will fit inside, and with such a perfect fit, is one of the platonic solids itself, being the cube, the hexahedron. This makes the sphere and the hexahedron and the cube the male and female in sacred geometry. A few other shapes important to go over when talking about the physical world and reality. One being the Vesca Pisces, this football shape that seems to have a lot to do with light and proportion. The next shape is 7 concentric circles called the seed of life. A lot of people believe in Genesis when it says God created the universe in 7 days, it's actually this picture. If you keep adding circles, you'll soon get the flower of life, this picture. Please notice the 6-sided hexagon coming about as you add circles. This flower of life is seen all over the ancient world and all continents. From that picture, you can extract this picture, which is the fruit of life. And this is the hexagonal shape I was talking about. Now, if you add straight lines through all the centers of these circles, you get this next picture, which is called Metatron's cube. Seems to be very important. The name Metatron is biblical, and there's a lot of significance to that shape because remember all of those platonic solids? Well, they're all inside of Metatron's cube.